Hey, this is Andy.
And Randy.
And we're here on AT Corner.
Being an athletic trainer comes with ups and downs, and we're here to showcase it all.
Join us as we share our world in sports medicine.
Welcome back to another episode of AT Corner. Our celebration of National Athletic Training Month rolls on, and we are going to be talking about basically the basis of just being an athletic trainer.
What is your clinical philosophy?
Ooh, such a good question.
Which also I feel like people use as interview questions.
Yes, that's true. It is. And you know what? I've noticed a lot more students asking preceptors that question too.
I had someone ask me this.
Really?
Student, yeah. A student trying to figure out if they want to be at, I guess, I don't really know how it works, but this school allows their students, I think, to choose their site. And so they're like interviewing different preceptors. Ooh. And they asked, what's your clinical philosophy? And I was like, oh, what a good way to get to know someone.
Yes. And one of our incoming students, she just rotated into our setting, did the same thing, asked what my philosophy was. Man, that's a good question. I feel like athletic trainers like to talk about their philosophy.
Actually, it's funny you say that because I actually, when I was putting up the questions, I was like, are people going to want to talk about this?
Yeah.
It could go one of two ways because everyone has a clinical philosophy, but can you put it into words?
That's always the hard part, is putting how you think you practice and the basis of your practice into coherent words.
Well, I think that's part of the problem too, is clinical philosophy it's not necessarily like an ankle or like a knee. It's not like something like defined. I feel like a lot of people use the word clinical philosophy without fully knowing what it is. Like they could use it in a sentence, but they don't necessarily know. And I think that's why it's sometimes hard to answer, especially for young professionals, because people say, oh, what's your clinical philosophy? And they're like, I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out.
I was going to say, usually when you just come out, you're trying to figure that out.
Right. But basically how I look at it is a clinical philosophy is your own ideals in your clinical practice. Like what makes you a clinician and how do you integrate like your AT motto into your practice?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think it's just basically that what you stand for when treating certain things or how you're going to go about certain things. Like, hey, this is the focus of my decision making.
Mm-hmm. I think a really good way to put it is everyone can treat like an ankle sprain, for example, but depending on your clinical philosophy, that is what's going to be the difference in between person A's treatment and rehab and person B and person C and person D.
Yep. 100%.
Because they're not all the same. Even with the same athlete.
Yes.
You can treat them differently.
Yes, definitely. And it goes back, at the end of the day, we're treating people. We're not treating means.
So I'm glad that you said that because our first clinical philosophy that I put in this story episode is from Hailey P. And she said her clinical philosophy is human first, athlete second. See the human, not the number on the back of the jersey.
Oh, I love it. I like it.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
And it kind of puts emphasis on the fact that we work with people. We do it. This is such a people profession.
Yes.
And outside of sport, people have their lives. They have activities of daily living.
Yes. And
they still have to drive home. They still have to pull cans out of the cabinet.
Yeah. And I've noticed too, more athletes are starting to think about that life outside of sports when they're trying to take care of themselves. A lot of them, yes, you still want to play your sport. You still want to be there for your team. And yes, I want to do my best to get back, of course. But I don't think it's like as much of I need to be out there.
Well, you've also changed settings.
Yeah, that's true.
Where you used to be in like elite D1.
But even then, those ones kind of talking to, I feel like more athletes are getting more in tune with just here are the consequences of, if I push through certain things. And it actually, I think it's coming more into their decision making of, okay, do I want to push? Mm-hmm. Or I kind of want to just take care of myself.
Would you say that's probably because of the decreased stigma of mental health?
I think that plays a part, and I think a lot of
Or I
it.
should say decreasing.
Yes, I think that plays a role, and I would also say the empowerment of the student athlete. I would say over the past few years, like you've seen it in the professional setting, and now you're starting to see it more in the like Division I, like NCAA, Division I, Division II, right? A lot of, there's a lot more empowerment of the student athlete. They have a lot more control, so there's not as much pressure as I would say there used to be. To like, oh, well, I have to do, I got to do what coach says, or I really need to be out there. We need to win this game. I think a lot more student athletes now feel that, hey, I have the wiggle room to make a decision that I would say would be best for me.
Mm-hmm. So our most common response was actually about treating the whole person, holistic care, mental and emotional. Basically what you said, treating people, not injuries.
Yeah.
So as I was going through, that was really like a central theme. So if we had like a generic clinical philosophy, I would say that's like where most of us
that's good.
are stemming from. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
And that's what we're taught too, and medicine in general, that's how everyone should be practicing, right? A holistic kind of view.
Right. So this next one, actually, I really like because I feel like it's got two meanings, which I like. And then also, we talk about this so much, especially in our education episodes, especially when we're talking about research articles.
Yes.
Do you want to read it?
Yes, this one's by Chris P. If it works, it works. So far, that's a good start. I like it.
Yeah.
This has two meanings. The patient experience is usually forgotten in evidence-based practice. If it makes the patient feel better, then it made them feel better. But it goes the other way too. Sometimes patients may not think something is working, but it definitely could be, just not as fast as they would expect. Also, if my water cow is covered in duct tape, but it still shoots out water, it still works.
If it works, it works.
If it works, it works. That's true. And actually, it's funny that came up because this past week, again, we had a new student rotating in, to our site. This has come up like in school, right? We talk about evidence-based practice, but I think what gets forgotten when we talk about evidence-based practice are the other two pillars, right? There are three pillars to evidence-based practice. And I think patient values and like patient experience and clinician experience, that doesn't often get talked about a lot. And you get just research like thrown at you. And it's like, this is evidence-based practice. Well, not necessarily. Like, yes, it's good. And you should be doing things like that research does support. But that doesn't mean throw out other stuff because, like we said, if it works, it works.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I also like this one because we're talking about the clinician side of things and like working with an athlete, working with a person, but also we're talking about being an athletic trainer.
Yes. Sometimes you gotta, if it works, it works. Sometimes there's unconventional things, but we make it happen.
Right. Someone told me once that they really valued athletic trainers because they're the most adaptable of the healthcare professions.
That's fair.
And I think it's because we literally have to be. Like, there's so much thrown at us that is just like, if you want to get the baseball example, like we get curveballs
all the time.
And you can't control that.
The left-handed curveballs? It's just the nature of working in athletics, I'd say. That's just the craziness of the world we work in has created that atmosphere where you got to adapt.
Right.
Be okay with adapting.
Okay, so here's another good one from Rachel L. She said she has 3 prongs to her clinical philosophy. Number 1, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Get invested in your setting. Get to know the people and serve them with a glad heart. Ask questions and converse with your people about all sorts of things. Make work talk, such as injuries and all the AT stuff. Make small talk, weather, weekend plans, etc. And don't neglect to make big talk, aka talk about important things, hard things, etc.
Yes, I'd agree. Definitely.
Number 2, make things fun whenever you can and invite everyone around you to be part of the ride. Heel and lace pad party. Employ your managers, loiters, season-ending athletes to help and write notes on them in marker for the person who wears it. Ice bag making competition. Tell a funny story or an embarrassing story about yourself and laugh. On a slow day, challenge someone to try taping your ankle. Or whatever. Just laugh as often as possible. I realized this is a part of my philosophy when I got a thank you note from a football player that said something like, "Thank you for everything. I always knew I was going to have fun when I came in and laugh a lot." And then number 3, athletic training is so much more than quote unquote just sports.
Fair.
Standing on the sidelines, running out for an injury, taping an ankle, making ice bags, just the tip of the iceberg is what's seen by the public. Take pride in everything that's underneath too, seen or unseen.
Yes, very fair. That's very true. There's so much more that we do on a day-to-day.
So I know this is kind of like off topic, but going back, heel and lace pad party with writing notes on the heel and lace
That's
pads.
cool. That's a cool idea.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, that's a nice idea.
Yeah.
That's fun.
I think that's something that we definitely value in our profession is that you can be fun, but you can also still be professional, and
100%.
You've got to really find the best of both worlds.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. Because, I mean, creating a fun clinic, the athletes are going to want to be in there. And plus they're already going through such a, a crappy time and a traumatic experience. So a light environment, hey, it gives them an escape.
Right. That's actually something that I put up on our Instagram stories, and I asked how people describe themselves at work. And it was a slider. So one side was, more professional and one side was more fun. And most people actually answered in the middle. Like it wasn't really leaning.
Yeah.
From what I remember, I don't think it was really leaning towards one side or the other.
Yeah.
Really, most of, maybe there were a lot of people who said just fun, a lot of people who said just professional.
Yeah.
And so that's why the average, but really the average was right in the middle.
Yeah. Also with the heel and lace pads, you definitely have to teach whoever's making them to make them right, or you end up with globs of lube.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a lot. You don't need globs.
Well, I also
less is more.
Yeah, less is more. I also feel like that kind of goes along with the teaching aspect of clinical philosophy, because even if you don't have formal students or like volunteers or like people underneath you, part-times, like whatever.
Yeah.
I feel like even your athletes who are going to go on to live their life and still be active, even if they decide to quit sport, like you're still going to be part of their educational journey.
Oh, most definitely.
How to take care of themselves, mentally, physically, like all of the above. So I feel like that teaching aspect is, you can also have a clinical philosophy of that.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, for sure.
So going back to like what I put on Instagram, Justin N replied to that Instagram story. He said, "It really depends on the coach and their personality. And it's also about reading the room. Is that team winning, or have they lost a lot of games recently? For athletes, it depends on the athlete, but I try to make the ATR a fun and welcoming place because they're already coming in a vulnerable position.
Yes.
So although we do have goals to achieve, we can still have fun and joke around."
Oh, 100%. There's always fun in rehab.
Right.
We can do that.
Right. I know. If you have someone come in and do clamshells,
You got to make it fun.
and only clamshells, they're never going to come back.
No, you got to make it fun somehow.
Yeah.
Give them a good time.
Oh, yeah. I feel like it's pretty easy to do with just the group environment anyway.
Yeah. And, with athletes in general, too, they tend to have, because they're so, depending on the sports, right? So many different sports, they're so unique. And I don't know, it's a cool experience to work with them. And especially like if you're working in a more traditional setting, right? You're working with probably a young adult who, is usually fairly likes to do fun things and have a fun attitude about things. So, I've definitely heard people say their patient population keeps them young. And I could see that. I could see that being the case.
Yeah, because you think you're so old.
Yes. But I have noticed slowly the gap starting to widen a little bit, because they'll bring up stuff and I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Yeah. Or they'll say stuff they watched as kids. I'm like, trash. My cartoons were way better.
I haven't noticed that. I guess I'm still with him.
Oh, you're not into your 30s yet.
No, I'm not.
When you hit that, then you'll start to notice. They'll start talking about things like, oh man, I have no.
What's your clinical philosophy?
It's a tough one to answer.
Really? You haven't? Have you thought about it?
Yes.
Okay.
So
I had to write a paper on it years ago.
So how I boil it down is my philosophy is the student athlete, right? I want to make sure I'm taking care of the student athlete as a person. Mm-hmm. I'm there to protect them. I want them to feel empowered. And that goes like for most kind of like situations, all right? Like protecting their decision to return to play or not, right? A lot of times you'll run into some student athletes that are just kind of like, you can tell that they don't feel comfortable, but they're trying to like push because, they don't want to let the team down, or they don't want to seem like, oh, they're babying this, or they're making excuses. So to be able to try and like, no, I want to know what's important to you. I will be the bad guy. I will make whatever bad decision you want me to make for you. Like I'll talk to coach, letting them know that, oh, this person's not, like, it doesn't have to come from you. I just want to know what's important to you, and then I can protect you from that point. Same thing from like the mental health aspect. I want them to be able to express themselves. I want them to feel safe coming in and letting me know what's going on, what they're feeling. And then also like in our rehab and our prevention stuff, right? I'm trying to fix whatever the problem is so this doesn't happen again. So they actually have, longevity in their sport, or they have a better outcome going on into their later life. So really, at the end of the day, it's really just about the student athlete.
Yeah. I mean, that's really what it is about.
And I let them know too, like, because again, it goes into that, like sometimes there's coaches out there, or the student athletes are afraid of their coaches, or again, they don't want to make excuses to their team or anything like that. And I let them know, like, I'm not here for them. I'm here for you. So
we're there for them if they get hurt.
Yeah. But like, I'm here for you. I'm not working for the coach. I'm not here for like your administrators or anything like that. Like I'm here to protect you and take care of you, so, take advantage of that, obviously. Right. I let them know, like, yes, I have to communicate with all those people, but at the end of the day, I'm here to take care of you. Right.
That was a good one.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever heard you say something about being a protector.
Yeah. I mean, that's my view. I view that I'm there to help protect them and empower them. And like I said, I think it's getting a lot easier because I think a lot of student athletes now do feel more empowered with just how the world of athletics has started to move. And, the NCAA is also recognizing that, from what I've heard from people is, these next couple of years, the NCAA is really going to be putting a lot of initiatives out that are going to be more geared towards the student athlete and empowering them. So it'll be exciting to watch how that evolves. And it's a good thing. It's good that the people that are, in, the reason we watch college sports, right? The athletes, right? They're being able to have a say in what's happening to them and what's, their input and stuff like that.
Did you know that my name means protector?
I do. I did know that. My name does not.
Yeah.
So that's why I have to put it in my clinical philosophy.
Because you weren't born into it.
It wasn't my name, so it's my middle name. No, I'm just kidding. It's really not my middle name.
No.
What's yours?
What's mine?
Yeah. You said you were going to write a paper, so here we go.
Okay, so I did have to write a paper about my clinical philosophy.
Really?
Yeah, but I don't remember it, and I haven't gone back to look at it because I
should look it up.
I think back then I didn't know what a clinical philosophy was.
This was like, yeah. Well, it's probably changed.
I don't know how many years ago. It was a while ago.
It's probably changed since you started practicing too, and you see how the real world of athletic training and clinic works.
Right. I don't think I really grasped what a clinical philosophy was back then. So I would be really interested to read it and see like what I thought back then.
How it's
also
evolved.
Was going into a different setting than I am now.
Yeah.
So now I would say my clinical philosophy is really to make meaningful change.
That's
and usually what that means for me is like first impressions. I want to make sure that the athlete or patient or whoever it is I've made a difference for them. If they're coming in pain, I really want to make a significant difference in that pain. If they're coming to me for something else, like I really want to make sure that whatever they need addressed, I address that, or I find someone who can address that. And it doesn't always have to be me.
Yeah.
I think I've had, and maybe this is because I've had a different setting where people weren't as familiar with athletic trainers, but I think that really helped shape that because I had a lot of people who would come to me and they'd be like, I'm so scared to come to an athletic trainer. Mm-hmm. And I think my passion for kind of growing this profession and educating people on what an athletic trainer is, I don't want anyone to feel like they have had harm from an athletic trainer or that they are scared to come to get help.
Yes.
Because essentially that's what we're here for.
Yeah, we're here to help.
We're here to treat the person, not the athlete. So I think that if someone comes to me and I'm able to make meaningful change with them, one, it's going to keep them coming back.
Yep.
And two, if I can help them get resources to things that they can do on their own and not just rely specifically on me, they can take that forever in their life and even teach it to other people.
100%. I don't know why it made me think of it, but speaking of like treating the person and creating a fun atmosphere, like, it is nice for the, athletes because their sport is so ingrained into who they are that they can come in and be treated like a person as opposed to the athlete that they are.
Right.
Also about the fun part, about creating a fun environment, you never know what you're going to get because apparently one of my men's volleyball guys challenged me to chess one day.
Oh, the chess champion?
Yes, they were playing chess on their phones and it was getting heated in there, by the way. It was getting loud and my room echoes, so I had to tell them, guys, it echoes in here. Relax.
We need the little more serious side right now.
Yeah, and I told them about how, I enjoy chess and hey, 2-time chess champ in elementary school. And yeah, one of them was like, okay, Monday, I'm bringing in a board. I'm like, all right. I don't know how this. No, it's upcoming. It's tomorrow.
Oh, you need to keep us posted.
Allegedly.
You need to keep us posted.
We'll see. I don't know how it's going to work because I don't know how I'm going to have time to sit there and play a chess match, but we'll see. Also, I'm nervous because I haven't played chess in years, so here we go. We'll see what happens. We're just going to shoot from the hip if we have to.
That's not how 2-time chess champions, chess club champions.
Hey, we'll see.
How they talk.
Yeah, we'll see what we get. See what hand I get dealt.
So we got another clinical philosophy. This one's from Stephanie B. She said, to help every athlete reach their highest level of play as safely as possible without long-term issues.
Yes.
And that, I think, as a student, you actually taught me because you would always be so concerned about like, oh, I want them to be able to like run around when they're 40 and I want them to be able to squat down and get something from the bottom cabinet or I want them to be able to get in and out of the car. And I'm like, I don't understand. Like that wasn't in my, like, they need to play their sports.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, oh, this makes so much sense. Like you have so much life beyond sports.
Especially because when you count like some of these athletes, right? Like your college athletes, right? For a majority of them, that's it. Mm-hmm. Besides, like obviously, if they want to continue playing rec or something like that, but
or coaching,
or coach. But high competitive athletics,
right.
You're done at what 24, 25,
right?
And even if you go pro. I mean, even the ones who do it for a long time, we're looking at 40-ish. I mean, Tom Brady's insane, but right, 40? I can't remember. Was he mid-40s? Right, you still have life after that. Right. So, yeah, there's just definitely a lot more out there.
So, for example, like all of our coaches who are like, "Oh, well, back in my day, we played through these things, and I don't understand." Like, blah 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 blah. My co-head is always like, well, how many surgeries have you had to have since you played sports?
Oh, yeah, 100%. Yeah, or like they'll come in and ask for like, oh, this is hurting. This is, this. I'm like, Yes, you are the model of how you should push through things.
Right. So actually, speaking of clinical philosophy changing, 81% of our Instagram poll said that their clinical philosophy has changed since they started as an athletic trainer.
I'd say that's true. Mm-hmm. Right? You evolve as a clinician, especially like coming from like being a student, right? Mm-hmm. you get into the real world of athletics and the real world of, medicine just in general. And it's, not everything's quite textbook. And
right.
So you learn a lot of different things along the way.
Well, I think even in the last few years of me being certified, I think I've changed my clinical philosophy.
Yeah, I'd agree. And, same thing. Like, just thinking about me, like I feel like I'm now more in a position where I really see the lack of empowerment that student athletes have had. And I feel like now a lot of my stuff is geared towards making them feel empowered. Like from when I started as a student to like now, right? Like I see where a lot of student athletes they're coming from a place of maybe less and feeling empowered. And now I feel like I'm more in a position to make them feel that empowerment or make them feel like, hey, like, no, like I do have some say in this and like, not just kind of passive through the athletic experience. So I feel like as a student, I never thought of that. I never thought like I would be one to be in that position to kind of work on that. Mm-hmm. But now where I'm at in my career, I feel like that's important. And I feel like I've done a pretty good job at that. So
yeah.
So yeah, I'd say definitely the evolution as you practice and you're in the world of athletics.
Right. So this next one from Rebecca R. She said, it used to be, for me, get back as quickly and safely as possible, which led to major issues of pushing kids too hard too fast. Now, being preventative is way easier and is overall safer. It helps these athletes later in life because I can get them to develop good, healthy habits now. They'll do them for the rest of their life.
Yeah. True.
The funny thing is, so I think as clinicians grow and evolve. Obviously. Yes. I don't think that is obvious.
As we should.
But we get a fresh, if you're in like a school setting, we get a fresh set of athletes every 2 years, 4 years, like every year, essentially. You're going to get new
sometimes
in and out.
There's some kids you wish transitioned out a little faster than others. Yeah.
And those student athletes have to go through that same process of kind of learning that.
Yes.
Even though you've already learned it and you're like, man, just listen to me. I know this works.
Yeah.
And some people are going to accept it better and some people aren't.
Yep. Again, treating people.
Mm-hmm.
Treating people.
So I liked this about talking about injury prevention because it's one of our domains.
Yes.
And so I've also put up about domains in our stories, which did you know they changed recently?
I remember they did when you said it. I was like, oh, yeah. But off the top of my head, I would have been like, oh, they did?
Yeah, so apparently our new domains in our new practice analysis is domain 1, risk reduction, wellness, and health literacy.
Nice.
Instead of injury prevention.
Health literacy is really cool. I think that's true. I think that's a good one.
Mm-hmm. Assessment, evaluation, and diagnosis is domain 2.
Nice.
Instead of clinical evaluation, diagnosis, something like that. Clinical assessment, I don't know.
Yeah.
Instead of emergency care, now we're calling it critical incident management.
Okay.
Yeah. Then the next one's therapeutic intervention, like normal. And then the last one's healthcare administration and professional responsibility.
Boom.
Yeah. So like slightly, I'm interested to see why we changed it to critical incident instead of emergency. I have to look more into that.
Maybe critical incident covers more.
Maybe, but I feel like to someone who doesn't know what an athletic trainer is, I feel like emergency makes more sense to the lay person.
Yeah.
But there's a reason why they did that, so I don't know the reason.
It wasn't just because.
No.
We needed something different.
The only bummer about when I put this on Instagram is apparently I can only put 4 poll options. I thought you could put more.
Oh,
but
that's a bummer.
Apparently now you can only put 4. So I asked what domain are you most challenged in and what domain are you strongest in?
Well, no one's going to want to talk about healthcare administration. So
yeah,
I think it's fair.
I took that one.
I think it's fair.
I feel like most people are going to be like, no, that's the most challenged.
Yeah. That's true. I feel like more people would have said because we've all had that documentation challenge,
rewriting policies.
That's fun though.
It is, but
it's a good time.
It is sometimes when Microsoft Word is on your side.
I like to collect data. So it's fun. I always like to see our injury trends.
Yes.
Welcome
But do you
to-
like to do that more than emergency care? I mean, critical incident management.
I wouldn't say more than.
Okay, so for domains you're strongest in, actually we had 33%, which is our highest percent, strongest in emergency care.
That's fair. I mean,
Which
it's
kind of-
ingrained into us.
Right.
You practice it all the time.
I mean, it also makes sense because you could also just go and become a physical therapist and they're not seeing as much
Yeah.
of that. So,
Yeah.
you know, and you don't have to deal with a lot of some of the things that we have to deal with. And then evaluation and therapeutic intervention were tied at second place with 26% of the pollers.
Yeah.
Said those were the strongest. Evaluation, therapeutic intervention, which I also thought was funny because when we looked at which domain are you most challenged in, we had a 46% win
Okay.
for therapeutic intervention.
Okay. Everyone you talk to, like especially students, everyone always says, I want to get better at rehab. I want to get better at rehab. And that's true. You always can improve and, get better at rehab. But I think a lot of times it's like it's not necessarily the lack of skill, it's the time aspect.
What do you mean?
Like when you have like 10 athletes in a room,
Oh, right.
like that's really hard to actually like sit down and do everyone's rehab like to a T, like supervised, making sure everything's perfect, right? There's going to be a lot of self-sufficiency.
Yeah, but I think it's more of the prescribing rehab than it is the like queuing.
Okay.
I mean, from what I'm understanding,
Yeah.
because like you can queue a bunch of different people at once, like walk around and like queue.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like if you were running like a fitness class, like you can't have individualized with everyone. I mean, maybe that's because I was a dance teacher for years, so like that comes easy to me. But I think it's the prescription of the rehab.
Like the type of exercises, or like what do you mean?
Like
prescription.
For me, it's like, okay, I have a hamstring. I'm going to do a glute bridge, and I'm going to do the Bosu ball, and I'm going to do the ball curls, and I'm going to do, and like the same exercises that are in my repertoire, like over and over and over again. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Where it's like, okay, like I want to change it up.
But I think it'd be different if you had time to sit there and think of one athlete at a time to do that.
I can have one athlete at a time right now. We only have 3 sports in season right now.
I'm just saying, like, for that example, like sometimes like because you would have so many at one time, it's hard to not think of like other exercises because your repertoire works because it's so automatic. That's what I'm saying. Because you have to be automatic, not like automatic, like it's, oh, I'm just doing the same exercise for everyone, but like, oh, I want to do some glute stuff. Oh, okay, like this one I can get them going really quick. Boom, 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 it works for this. I feel like it'd be different if you had like, okay, I got some time to sit down. I'm going to plan this out. I'm going to look at maybe an exercise or two. Where sometimes it's hard to.
If you're better at rehab, then do you actually have to sit down and think about it? It should be.
Well, you're only human. There's so much an athletic trainer has to think about throughout the day that sometimes it's hard to come up with exercise. I get what you're saying. And yeah, having a wider repertoire of rehab exercises and things to do is good. But I think we all could do that with just if we had more time.
Yeah, but I feel like it's a lot easier to like. Maybe this is hard for me because like emergency management is my strength, but I mean I feel like it's harder for someone to say like, oh, I wish I knew more emergency management. Like, I mean, it's this, you don't change the emergency management. It's like you read it,
for sure.
you memorize it, you execute it.
Yeah.
And maybe you don't have as many experiences with that because your sports are lucky. But like it's very straightforward. Whereas I feel like rehab can be so abstract and so subjective.
Yes, yeah.
And so I feel like that's where it's like hard for people because it's not black and white. It's not a protocol. You can't be like, okay,
that's true.
2 days out from a hamstring strain, you're from a groin strain. Like I'm going to do this, this, and this with you because that's what I did with this other person.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true.
So talking about strengths, actually talking about therapeutic intervention, Hailey said, during my undergrad, I worked as a fitness instructor and my college taught a class through the campus gym to prepare me. Once their X class came around, I already had a foundation. Go Beavs.
That story was great until we hit the Go Beavs, but whatever.
Did you notice that I read that story? And I should have made you read that story.
Yeah, well, we would have stopped before we got to Go Beavs. Go Ducks. Sorry. I know she did that on purpose.
I know. So anyway, Hailey, so if you guys don't know, I say it pretty much like every episode. Hailey was my first preceptor.
Yes.
And she actually had like binders of different rehab, like stick figure rehab, like pictures and stuff. And she actually went and she made copies of them. I need to go look for them. I'm pretty sure it's in the bookshelf over there, but
our library.
Yes, our library. So she made copies of like all the rehab sheets that she had, and they're just like different exercises to just like, and she had so many. So I mean, you just have to like find someone and pick their brain on, because everyone has different strengths.
Yeah.
And you can obviously you can learn so much from your preceptors.
Oh, most definitely.
And then once you're out of school, you can learn so much from all of the, what is it, like 57,000 athletic trainers there are?
Yes.
Certified athletic trainers?
Yes. And just because you're, certified and you graduate, you moved on from your sites, does not mean you still can't pick your preceptors' brains.
Oh yeah. I literally called Hailey the other day and I was like, hey, I need to pick your brain about this. And we talked for like an hour and I was like, okay, I feel better now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. They will always be your preceptor no matter what.
Yes. But I also learned from my students. Like when I first stepped foot on a baseball field and I was like, you guys, I don't know what I'm doing.
Well, the nice thing about students too is like, right, like you get to learn what they're learning in class because it's different than when you went to school.
Right.
Possibly.
Right.
Or the more you go throughout your career, right? Eventually there's going to be a gap as information has changed. And
well, okay, they bring me special tests and I'm like, dude, I never knew what that is. I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
So please enlighten me.
Yeah. So it is nice. It's good. It's good learning from them as well. And I think it's important for them to be able to teach us as preceptors as well, because then they get to learn what they're trying to learn already. Right.
Another clinical philosophy. This one is from Alyson S, which, so fun fact, we met Alyson in an elevator at NATA.
You're right. Yeah, we did.
So anyway, she says, I would never make an athlete do an exercise that I couldn't do myself.
That is very true. Because mostly from a cueing aspect, right? If I'm demonstrating the exercise and I can't do it right, then I'm not going to have them do it because they're not going to do it right.
This, I think, also goes along with when you're picking treatments, you should, I'm saying you should, maybe that's a little judgmental, but I believe that you should pick things that you have tried before.
Yeah.
Because I also feel like it gives you a better insight of what something feels like.
Yeah.
So, for example, like, my neck one day I was at work and my neck, like, I could not hold my head up. And, like, my neck hurt so bad. I don't know what I did. And I was like, man, like, I can't, like, it's really spasmed. I can't, like, I don't know why. I can't really focus. And someone was like, put an ice pack on it. And I was like, no, I'm not going to put an ice pack on it. And they're like, yeah, just do it. Like, you need to break the pain cycle. Like, you just need to put an ice pack on it. And I was like, okay, that's dumb. But I did it. And it helped so much. And, like, granted now, like, would I recommend ice? Maybe. But, like, that experience of me, like, having a muscular spasm and just breaking that cycle, like, you could do the same thing with a heat pack.
Yeah.
I'm sure. I think maybe at the time I had already tried heat and, like, nothing was working. Yeah. So I think that's why we did ice. But anyway, like, it was something that was out of my norm. And same thing, like, with stim. Like, if you've ever been in pain and you put stim on, you can kind of feel, like, what they're feeling. Yeah. So that when someone is in pain, you can recommend that stim, or you can recommend, like, it's kind of hard if you've, like, never been injured and never had swelling. Like, you can't really, like, I'm not going to tell you to go, like, get a direct blow and get some big swelling so you can like feel what
understand what
like,
that is.
Go tear your ACL. Like,
yeah, there you go.
But as far as like sticking your leg in a whirlpool or trying out a rehab exercise, like I think you can get so, and okay, here's another really good example. I saw on Instagram rehab from a physical therapist, and they were talking about how the glute is really like, if we really want to train the glute, we a lot of times we train the glute like two-sided or but it actually does rotation to one side, and so you do this like squat down, and then you have a band on your opposite hip, not on your opposite hip, but like a cable like attached to a wall, and your hand is on your opposite hip, and then you go into hip extension like kneeling, and then you pull that band over to your the same side that your arm, so your arm's like pulling like from one hip to the hip side you're working. And I just did like 4 reps of it, and my glute was so sore. And I was like, wow, this is like a really good glute targeted exercise.
That's awesome.
That like I could prescribe to someone, but now I know what it feels like.
100%.
And now I know, like, now that I've felt it, I'm going to be more likely to give it to someone when I'm like, oh, I'm looking for a glute specific targeted exercise. Especially like it incorporates a rotation in it. I use it for a baseball athlete. I'm like, okay, perfect. Like we're working on your swing. We're working on lower extremity. This is a really good one. It's not quite sports specific yet, but we're getting into that rotation movement.
100%.
Yeah. So things like that. So the next one we move into is actually about, a little bit about a lot of things. Like it starts with challenges, like, but it also leads into how she found a strength.
So this one's by Rebecca R. I get distracted /ADD easily. So sometimes I miss things or repeatedly ask things and they do not click in my head. I was tested for ADD/ADHD when I was a kid and was borderline, and my parents made the decision for me to learn how to deal with it. I got retested as an adult and went on medicine. Also, weirdly enough, country line dancing has helped a lot and found some good rehab tools. There's a dance that's great for shin splints and high ankle sprain rehab.
Isn't that great?
That's crazy. That's pretty cool. Also,
actually really fast, I'm going to interrupt you because it just goes back to like having fun as an athletic trainer.
Yes, that's right.
Could you imagine your athletic trainer just being like, okay, we're going to do some line dance now?
Also, taking a breath and reminding myself, especially when it's busy in the training room, to slow down. I've also just started asking the kid I'm working with to go into another room or a quieter corner because it's hard for me to concentrate. Building the relationship with the kids is what made me comfortable enough to ask for that. They know that I have their best interest at heart, so they know if I can't fully concentrate, that I'm not giving them my best. And I've had kids say thank you for moving them, and that they felt like I could see by my body language that I was more at ease and could pay attention better.
I think that kind of goes into, and we've talked about this so much on the podcast, like you have to know yourself.
Yes.
It is so important.
Yes, 100%.
It is so important. We've talked about using the Enneagram. We both know the Enneagram really well, which is like not your outward personality, but like what motivates you.
Yep.
And it really like, you got to find what works for you. Like if that doesn't
100%.
work for you, like find something else that you can kind of like understand yourself, because it helps when you're working with your athletes. It helps when you're working with your students, how you're going to react to things, how you react to stress. Basically, like even when I'm working with someone and there's a conflict, like it helps me see perspective from someone else's view. It also, when I'm teaching, or like if I always make my students take the Enneagram, or I know some people do like the color test, and I can really see like, okay, so I have a student who sees the world black and white, and that's how they make their decisions.
Yeah.
That tells me that when I'm explaining something, I have to make it black and white so that they understand it.
Yeah.
Then once they understand it, then I can challenge them to move out of that black and white and move more into the gray area. And that's where they're going to grow.
Yeah.
And if I don't know those things, if I don't know myself, if I don't know how I work, how I teach, how I learn, then how am I going to break it down for someone else?
Yeah, true. That's very true.
And that just goes beyond like being an athletic trainer, but
Yes.
just like the person side of
Yep.
it. So another thing that came up a lot in our stories and our DMs was about manual therapy. And I know this is something that some schools do like a lot of and some don't.
Yeah.
So I asked specifically on our Instagram, I did a slider of like, how much manual therapy do you do? And on that slider, more people, so I had like one side that was like, I don't ever do manual therapy, and one side that was like, every single person needs manual therapy. And the slider was more on the side of like people did manual therapy more often than
they
not.
did not.
Mm-hmm. You want to read this first one?
Yes, this one's by Melissa W.
So this one also ties into her clinical philosophy.
Keep them happy, aka manual therapy for patient comfort to encourage rehab for results. I realize that although manual treatment is not always the most evidence-based, my patients are more than stats. That is very, very true.
If it works, it works.
That's right. If instrument-assisted soft tissue mobilization and joint mobilizations keep them comfortable and able to continue rehab, I'm all for it. I agree. I love manual therapy.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we had a couple people in our interview episodes that we ask about the athletic training spirit animal.
Yeah.
Ooh, we should do an episode on that.
Just spirit animal?
Yeah.
Everyone's story? That'd work.
A lot of people say their hands.
Yep. A lot do. Yeah, we've had it. That has been the reoccurring, like the only one that reoccurs so far.
There's been a couple, like one or two.
Yeah. But manual
like,
therapy has
that
been
one
consistent.
Is, right.
Or
No, your
hands. Sorry. Yeah. Hands has been the consistent one.
Right. No, seriously.
Yeah.
This one is from Alexandra W, whose name also means protector.
Oh yeah.
I think Sandra is a derivative of Alexandra, which is like protector of humanity, and then Alexandra, like protector of men, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So anyway, Alexandra W says, this is my first year practicing as a college AT for a small NAIA. My favorite technique is trigger point release, ART and PRT. I assess everyone when they come in to see where they are lacking and address tissue before locking in the new movement. My technique was taught to me in schooling, and on days I cannot do my manual therapy, all my teams know how to roll.
That's right. That's true.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you got to give the technique of like, hey, I'm here for you, but also when I can't be, you need to be able to do something.
There's other things, the things you can do that achieve the same. There is literature that soft tissue and foam rolling tend to be about the same.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, but which one makes them walk out of there happier?
Exactly. Probably the manual therapy.
Yeah. I always
the point is, hey, don't feel bad.
Oh, right.
If they're just rolling that day. They're probably not missing that much. So
I give the caveat of like, oh, we can't do this every day.
Yeah, no, we're not, yeah.
You know why? Because when I was a student, you know the glute release where you put your elbow in someone's glute and then you move their like leg internal and external rotation of the hip. I had someone who used to come to me like clockwork every single day, and I'm like, we can't do this.
Yeah, we can't do this, bro.
Yeah, we're not.
Yeah, no.
Foam roller. Here you go.
Yeah. Well, my thing too is like, manual therapy is as with most things in athletic training and in rehab, right? It's to be used in conjunction,
right?
It's not just manual therapy in a piece, right? We should be able to, add in other stuff. And the idea is, hey, with that other stuff, you don't necessarily need the manual therapy at a certain point, hopefully. And like to that point about the person who like is the clockwork person. Well, what are you going to do like at a meet?
Right.
And
what if I'm not there?
Yeah. What if I'm not there? Or when you're running, right? I can't have my elbow in you. Right. So it's like, they do need to also have, okay, what's my alternative? What also works?
I had someone come to me. I've told this on the podcast before, but it's stuck with me. I had someone come to me and say, they move their arm around and they're like, I think I'm due for a pec release. And I was like,
that's so annoying.
Oh, no.
No, you're not.
Like, I am not an oil change service.
This is not Jiffy Lube.
Yeah. I was like, wow, I need to not be sassy right now. I need to address this professionally. Because if I would have just spoken out of emotion, I would have been like, no.
No, you're not.
No. So I know one manual therapy that we love.
Yes.
And we talk about
Game changer.
is Mulligan.
Game changer. That one has been amazing.
And the reason
love
why,
Mulligan.
and we're not sponsored, but the reason why we love this is because it treats the joint. And I feel like there's so many, like you learn like massage techniques, pin and stretch, like ART, all those things are muscular.
Yeah.
What happens when you get a joint? Like you could do joint mobilizations.
Yeah. Also, what's nice about Mulligan too is the idea is it's supposed to be a pain-free thing and it's supposed to be lasting. So
Right.
you literally have instant pain relief if what you're doing is like indicated for Mulligan.
Right.
So the idea is if you do this, it should be pain-free and that you should have lasting results.
Right.
So like you said about creating meaningful change, you literally did something that made their pain go away or at least go significantly down.
Mm-hmm. So I was, when we took our Mulligan course of the lower quarter, I think they call it.
Yes, we still need to do the upper.
Yes, we do. So we did the lower quarter Mulligan and we were on the hip. And I have like this joint restriction. Actually had, I should say.
You should,
had a joint restriction in my right hip where I literally could not actively move my knee or my hip into flexion beyond 90 degrees. Was it even to 90? Like I
barely.
think yeah. And my left hip flexion can pretty much go to my chest.
Yeah.
Passively and almost actively.
Yeah.
So anyway, like there was a big deficit and, like when I'm lying prone, if you put my hips into internal rotation, you could see the deficit on my right side, like significantly.
Yeah.
And, the guy who was teaching our course, like was showing like, oh, there's a deficit, like, and then he showed a Mulligan technique on my hip.
Got a clunk,
and instantly fix my deficit that I'd had literally have had clinicians work on for years.
Yep.
For years. And now I still have hip problems, but it's not like that deficit. It was like we were already bought in, but that alone, Mulligan is a game changer. And for Rebecca R., she said fascial stretch therapy by Stretch to Win is a game changer.
Ooh.
Which I haven't heard of.
Yeah, neither have I.
She said, I would highly recommend anyone involved in athletics, especially track, tennis, golf, gymnastics, swim, to learn more about fascia and how to stretch it. This certification was a week long, and I learned more about the human body in that week than I did my previous 11 years of being an AT.
There you go. I mean, fascia definitely is one thing that, especially in those sports that were just named, that is very important. I think for all athletes, athlete trainers should be very familiar with fascia because it is very important.
Right. So like ART, PRT, those treat like muscular. Mulligan treats the joint. Fascial stretch therapy is going to be fascia. There's neurokinetic therapy.
It's good stuff.
Which treats imbalances.
Yeah, it's like a motor control thing.
Motor control. Yeah. There's what are some other
oh my goodness.
Why am I forgetting the name of the
strain counter strain?
Strain counter strain. Yep. Strain counter strain. That one's for what, muscular?
Yeah, muscular.
There's so many. Like we're missing so many. But one of my preceptors told me and kind of like really instilled, like, guys, don't just go to conferences. Like conferences are important, especially for networking.
Yes.
But
staying informed.
But you also have to go to courses.
Yes. Learn the techniques, man.
Right. That's what's going to change your practice. Like you learn the theory at the conferences, but you actually like the learning labs are where you actually like do things. Learning labs and actual courses, like 8-hour courses, 6-hour courses, week-long courses.
Mm-hmm.
That's where it's at. So this next one is anonymous. They said motion is lotion. Make them move.
I like that.
I heard it and stuck, but I still use it every day. Also, the movement might be as simple as partial squats or wall push-ups. I hardly ever use passive treatments.
Hey, that's true, man. Adjusting the movement, like, just because squats hurt doesn't necessarily mean the squat is like, oh, don't do squats. Hey, maybe we can do a partial squat and that might work. All right, so I agree with that. That's true. I'm stuck on the sitting's the new smoking. That's my thing.
Really?
Yeah. Tell people that all the time.
Oh,
yeah, sitting's the new smoking.
Make a move.
That's right. Movement is medicine.
So actually, when I first saw this, I was thinking it was talking about make your patients move, not you, which is also super important because when I see, and I think maybe because my foundation of my practice, especially in my last semester, I learned so much manual therapy. And maybe people don't really have as much access to that, but I see so many students and young professionals who are putting their body in so much strain.
Yes. Yeah.
So much strain. And whether it be like you like during manual therapy techniques or even while you're doing a manual muscle test, you have to like think about where your body is in space and do it ergonomically, because otherwise you're going to be doing this for 40 years and your body's going to break down.
Yeah.
Make them move. That's what I was thinking of.
That's the thing now when I do manual therapy, man. I'm not really doing a ton with my hands anymore. Like I'm not doing like a ton like of like the manual work with my hands. I'm using tools or the cups. Right. Most of the time if I'm doing a manual kind of technique, it's probably, or like using my hands in the manual technique, it's like a joint mobilization. So something I know I'm putting in myself into a better position to be able to execute the movement.
You could also do like hand over hand. So it's more, and use like axial load of your fingers. Don't hyperextend into those joints. Yep. And a lot of things I see, like the wrists, like any deviation of wrists, we want to make sure that that's also like.
Let's not crush that TFCC. Huh?
No.
Doesn't like it.
Nope. So we have two more, and these ones move more into the mental health aspect.
Okay.
This first one's by Briana T. Do you want to read this one?
Yes. My clinical philosophy is mind, then body. I have a lot of friends who are student athletes. If you were diagnosed with depression following significant injuries, I just like to remind them and my patients there is more to life than sports. One day it will end, and you'll either have to get to know yourself or spend quality time with yourself. It's easier to just spend more time with yourself than trying to figure out who you are without something you've done for years. It's harder than it sounds just because some are potentially supporting their families or sacrificing such things for success. So instead of saying nicely, it's not the end of the world for acute, chronic, season, or career-ending injuries, I ask, how's school? Family dynamics, their why, hobbies during rehab to build a connection beyond patient and AT. I think I get it from my mom. She was a teacher. It's true. I really do like enjoying learning about their lives.
And it kind of makes them focus on what else they have.
Yes.
I mean, that's essentially what Sidelined USA is.
Yeah.
They
helps that transition.
Exactly. And kind of help figure out like, okay, what place does sports have in my life? Not what place does my life have in sport?
Yep, definitely. 100%.
Even if you do go back to sport, it's not necessarily meaning like this is end all be all. Yeah. I think someone put it a really good way. Like when you go to introduce yourself, do you say like, "Oh, I'm Sandra. I'm the athletic trainer." Like when you're outside of work.
Yeah.
Is that what you identify yourself with? Like when someone asks you to say who you are, like what do you say? Like, oh, I'm a mom, I'm a dog mom, I'm a sister, I'm a daughter, I'm, like whatever. Yeah. What things do you identify with? You can ask your athletes the same thing. Like, oh, I'm Megan, I'm the soccer player.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's interesting about the diagnosis of depression following significant injuries because, again, there is literature out there showing those that have had a history of injury have lower quality of life, higher mental health distress.
Oh, I can believe that.
Yeah.
So our last one is also about mental health, but it starts negative, but it ends on a positive note.
We like that.
So from Callie H, she said, "We have a teacher commit suicide, and from then on, I just wanted our kids to know that they are loved. I focus a lot more on mental health and just making sure that kids felt safe in our office. The actual duties of the job became secondary. I changed up rehab plans based on mental health of the athlete that day, talked way more about life outside of school, and told the kids I love them often."
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. And so that kind of plays into like her clinical philosophy of how she conducts herself as a clinician.
Yeah.
And how
For sure.
that affects her student athletes.
Yeah, definitely. 100%. This was a good one.
Yeah.
I liked the philosophy one. That was awesome.
Yeah. And there's like, it's kind of cool because you can see how many people are so, like, there's definitely overarching themes.
Yes.
And then there's also like any clinician there's going to be differences.
Yep. It's cool to see everyone kind of like on the same lines that we're treating people.
Right. So if you want to join this conversation, if you want to submit your clinical philosophy, if you want to share or talk about it with other clinicians, we do have a Facebook group. You can email us anytime, atcorners@gmail.com.
We love messages.
We do. Or you can go to our Facebook group, facebook.com/group/atcornerpodcast. We'll put up episode threads so you can comment with other clinicians, comment with other listeners, kind of talk about your clinical philosophies and how they're similar or different from this episode. We also have an Instagram, which if you submitted a story, you already found it probably. It's called @AT Corner Podcast, which is where we put up prompts for the story. So if you missed the prompts for the story, we are putting prompts up for our next episode. For our next story episode, it's actually going to be earlier in the week. So make sure you keep an eye out for that. Yes. I don't know if it's the next one, but it probably is. We are doing kit stories.
Yeah.
We're bringing up that debate of sling versus fanny again.
Oh, so you just want to keep trying to find the result you want. I know.
But I will never change my mind.
You know, kits are just as unique as the athlete trainers that don them.
Yes. Just like clinical philosophy, you have kit philosophy.
Yes.
So anyway, we do have a couple other fun things coming up. If you want to win an athletic training kit, make sure you go to our Instagram.
Yes.
Which is where we're doing a giveaway with Medco.
Oh, yes.
And then we also have education episodes. Mm-hmm. So this was a story episode. We also do education episodes where we either have an interview episode with a featured topic, or we'll have Randy usually dissects 20 plus research articles, puts them all together in one episode, and then we partner with Precision AT, who helps us provide CUs for those. So lots going on.
Yeah.
Reach out to us. We'll try to get back to you guys as quickly as possible. And happy National Athletic Training
Month. I hope it's still going well. You know, hope the athletes are staying nice.
Yeah.
It's our month.
Anything else, maybe?
Nope, that was perfect. Thank you for helping us showcase athletic training behind the tape. Bye.